Good afternoon, everyone. Hard to match the energy of Amar, right? So I'm not even going to give it a shot, by the way. Yeah, this is my second, annual sales kickoff at iValue, and it's been an absolute, pleasure and privilege to be a part of this audience, right? Just a show of hands, how many of you are attending iValue's annual sales kickoff for the first time? Just a show of hands. Just have a look around, guys. Just have a look around. This is already a shift up, right? This is simply amazing. I think this is probably 35-40% of the organization. It's just brilliant the way the growth kind of has come across within the organization. It's phenomenal. Coming to the Checkpoint story with iValue, of course, I mean, the current scheme of things, iValue happens to be the most experienced distributor for Checkpoint in India, right? The relationship goes on several years, and I think a lot of you have been part of that journey all through, or almost a major portion of that, right? And I've got to learn so much from all of you, as a matter of fact, since I'm just about a couple of years old into this. But it has grown leaps and bounds. Again, last year, the same story repeats, right? iValue was the biggest contributor in terms of revenue for Checkpoint in India. Some of those things kind of keep repeating themselves, right? So that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And I want to take this opportunity, this stage, to really thank you from the bottom of my heart for your continued support. I know all of you have gone out of your way to support this business. I know the extent that Shubha, Subodh, and the team goes to really support our business, not just during quarter ends, but any whimsical asks that come in from our side from time to time. That's absolutely phenomenal, right? So you are in a literal sense, an extended arm of what Checkpoint does in India. So thank you once again for all that. What I'm going to do is, divide my briefing into 4 brief buckets, let's call it that way. We're going to touch upon what we really see as an opportunity in India, right? That's the first part of it. The second one is, how exactly is the cybersecurity market evolving? What are the challenges that from an Indian economy perspective we are all facing, which, in effect dovetails into an opportunity for all of us. I'm going to touch upon that a little bit. Checkpoint Solutions, this is not a technical presentation, so I'm not going to kind of get into the details of it, but just touching upon what we do as an overarching philosophy, what is it that we serve the customers with and stuff like that. And last but not the least, a little bit about our partnership, about the relationship, what are the mutual expectations from each other, how do we benefit from each other, and so on and so forth, right? So I'll try to keep this short, give some time back. In terms of the trends, and I'm going to pick some of the contents that Frost & Sullivan actually shared with us during a partner leadership conclave that we had with regards to how they envisage this market, right? As per their estimates, the CAGR for cybersecurity in India is going to be in the range of about 18 to 18.5% over the next 10 years. Trust me, guys, there is no other sub-segment in an industry that actually can boast of this kind of a CAGR, right? So this is a phenomenally fast growing market. There's an immense amount of opportunity for all of us to address. And I think your theme exactly colludes with what's there out in the markets, right? So there is an opportunity to capture. That is, something which is super exciting for all of us. And I think we are at the right place at the right time as far as this industry is concerned. Some of the market trends, of course, there are disruptive technologies that are going all across, artificial intelligence, machine learning. You've been reading about AI a lot in the recent news, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, it is seeping into the scheme of things. People are adopting AI a lot as we go forward. And to keep pace with that, organizations also have to invest a lot in terms of maintaining their cybersecurity postures so that bad elements do not creep into the organizations, right? And that's where all of us kind of step in, try to innovate solutions, offer services to ensure that the customers meet their needs in this particular regard. In addition, of course, if you look at the geopolitical situation that we are in, the cyber threats on government agencies have grown multifold. You have threat actors surrounding our country from 3 out of the 4 directions, and that kind of is a continuous battle for the government as well. The after effect of it is, of course, there is an immense amount of investment committed by the government under cybersecurity domains, which actually offers us a big opportunity to go ahead and capture, right? That's kind of an opportunity for all of us to go ahead with. What is also happening is a lot of these enterprise organizations have actually come across and deployed solutions at different points in time to cater to the specific threats and needs at that particular point in time. And everything has become very siloed, right? So again, it's an opportunity for all of us to go hit them, ensure that we provide a common blanket which is easier to manage, which gives them a better security posture and ensures that everything is in order as far as the threat protection is concerned. Okay, in terms of the focus areas, and this is where iValue actually is probably at the cusp of getting into a massive opportunity with the recent movements that have happened over the last 12 months, right? Managed security services, professional services, which includes, of course, implementations, day-to support, and so on and so forth, provide the biggest possible opportunity in the cybersecurity arena as of now, right? And you guys, just with the expansion of the team over here, with the technical expertise that has been blended into the organization, are at a phenomenal advantage in terms of really capitalizing on this particular opportunity. Of course, then there are vendors like us, everyone else, from the OEM side, who bring the right products to the table. A lot of R&D goes into it, a lot of investment goes into it to ensure that we meet the customer needs as well, right? So that's, of course, the second part of the story. But I would like to stress a lot upon the services aspect, because that is where Checkpoint depends upon its distributors and partners. We are not a services-led organization. We will continue to focus on our product portfolio, and we would expect distributors like iValue to really shift up, step up, and ensure that we kind of meet the customer demands in this particular arena as well. Just a briefing about the product lines. Doesn't have too much of a contextualization around it. The reason I mentioned it over here was to boast of a point that Checkpoint probably covers about 80% of these product portfolios. It has an end-to-end plethora, which I'll just touch upon in a couple of minutes. But having said that, I think the gaps that are there, or the ones that are not addressed, we do have strategic alliances either, or we are kind of working double time at the back end to ensure that we have those products in the kitty as well. I spoke about artificial intelligence. The good news is that Checkpoint has been at it over the last 10 to 12 years. This has been incorporated into the scheme of things, into the product development aspects, into the threat intelligence engine, and so on and so forth over the last 8 to 10 years, which means that we are ahead of the curve in terms of addressing this particular change in the industry as well. I spoke about what's happening, right? We all keep hearing about breaches. Some of them are very kind of, they get covered in the media very well because they are high-profile breaches. For example, AIMS, let's say, or any of the government agencies that catches a breach. A lot of them actually just undergo, unnoticed amongst all of us, but they still happen, and only the organization that is getting impacted really actually is worried about it. And no one speaks very loudly about it as well, right? It's one of those things which is best kept under the carpets. Nevertheless, but fact of the matter is that India happens to be one of the highest breached countries across the world. The number of attacks that are hitting us is far more as compared to the majority of the countries in the world, be it geopolitical situations, be it the exponential growth, be it the post-pandemic era, and so on and so forth, XYZ reasons. But the fact is that we are, unfortunately, at the higher end of the cyber attacks that are hitting us from time to time. This is just an example, right? One of the surveys says that every organization worth its salt is hit about 2,036 times in a week as compared to a global average of 1,206. That's a massive, massive difference, right? I look at it as a massive opportunity to serve the customers better together, of course, right? So that's something which we need to kind of have at the back of our minds. What exactly is happening, and I touched upon this just a while later, is that when it comes to breaches, when it comes to customers really analyzing those breaches, some of the things that we keep hearing from the customers is, hey, I had the best of breed products. I had this for endpoint, this for firewalls, this for XYZ and stuff like that, but I don't know what happened, right? Point of contention is, are these solutions really talking to each other? Is there a seamless way of communication between the vectors through which threats actually enter the organization? When you have this siloed approach, when you don't have a unified management console, the problem really kicks in, right? And that is precisely the theme of Checkpoint going into this financial year, ensuring that the core issue of a very siloed approach adopted by organizations is addressed through an end-to-end solution era, and that's something that we are going to focus upon as we go forward, right? So as you talk to customers, you speak to them whether each of those vectors is covered, whether it network, be it endpoint security, which has grown multifold due to the post-pandemic situation that we have on hand, cloud migrations and so on and so forth. Probably in a hushed tone, you would you would listen to some of the concerns that the customers constantly come across. You're not very confident whether they have the best security posture in the organization at this particular point in time, right? And that's kind of, a huge opportunity for all of us to ensure that we guide them appropriately as we go forward. Right. As I said, just as your theme is shift up, coincidentally our theme for the year is level up, which means that we need to work with our customers to level up their security postures through the 3 constant C's that we keep talking about. A comprehensive security portfolio which encompasses every single vector in a given organization, a very consolidated approach wherein we provide a unified management portal. If one particular vector gets affected, we immediately have a remediation to it that is spread across the other vectors as well, so that it does not get affected. And last but not the least, of course, a very collaborative approach, right? As and when we get into the as a service mode, be it MDR, XDR, and so on and so forth, we do understand that any organization will have a plethora of products across different vendors within their environment, within their systems. And we have to have a collaborative approach wherein any such threat management engine should be talking to third-party vendors also to ensure that the customer actually benefits from a single point of management. That again is the third C which comes into picture when we talk about leveling up our security posturing with the customers per se. Some of the important points that we bring to the table, vis-a-vis everything else that's available in the industry. We believe in the ethos of prevention. By the time the malware or the threat attack happens within the customer organization, it's already too late to create a remediation methodology around it. Damage has already been done, right? And that's where the prevention methodology actually comes into place. A strong threat intelligence engine that has an intelligence of about 31 years backing it up comes into play, and it reduces the possibility of an attack substantially as compared to someone else. In addition, of course, some of the reports, we've been at the forefront in terms of the firewall technologies, next generation firewalls, bringing in additional expertise into this particular area. That continues. Our malware block rate is about 99.7%, supremely high, almost at about a 35 to 40% differentiation vis-a-vis all the other solutions that are available in the markets. I'm not going to kind of go through a lot of details over here, but suffice to say, 3 clear vectors of solution areas. Checkpoint boasted of about 85 to 90 solutions about a year and a half ago. Everything was consolidated into 3 buckets. The first one being Quantum, which is primarily the next generation firewall on all the bells and whistles around it, of course. The second one was Harmony, which primarily has to do with endpoint security. And we talk about 3 sub-vectors in this area. We talk about the user, we talk about the number of devices that the users have access to, and the third one is the applications and the way those applications are accessed by the users, be it through the cloud, through the data center, through internet, and so on and so forth, right? All this taken into consideration, you have to have a security solution that kind of encompasses each of these sub-vectors and ensures that there is a protection layer around each of those areas. So that basically creates an end-to-end endpoint security solution, which primarily revolves around secure users and secure access, and ensure that every possible hole is blocked in the entire solutions portfolio. So that's the endpoint security domain, which is the second bucket that I was talking about. The third one, of course, the hot topic in town, right? The latest in the industry, which is, of course, cloud migrations. And that's creating its own exciting challenges as well as opportunities in the markets, right? But replicating whatever is there in the data center on the cloud as a posture with minimal disruption is basically the core theme of introducing these cloud security solutions. So be it a cloud firewall, be it a posture management solution, be it protecting web applications, security, access to the cloud workloads, and so on and so forth. Each one is a module, can be provided as an intrinsic security platform, can be provided as a point solution for the customer depending upon his or her needs, right? So this is something which is super interesting. All taken together, of course, provides an all-encompassing solution from Checkpoint's perspective. Last but not the least, the key change that has come in this year, as I said, moving the needle towards as a service, right? Everything's kind of shifting towards as a service, more from a costing perspective, more from the customers demanding what they want to pay for as per their usage, right? So the pay-as-you-go model is kind of growing increasingly. Its relevance is kind of becoming more and more stronger. And you as a distributor and we as, let's say, a product vendor need to innovate to ensure that we have those solutions and those financing models in place as we move ahead into the industry, right? So that's something which is catered to by something called as Horizon, which is an entire as a service model which can work with the SOCs and NOCs of the customers independently as a service for the customers, provided through the cloud and so on and so forth. All your conventional ADR, MDR, XDR solutions that we typically talk about. Last but not the least, an all-encompassing infinity architecture. If a customer wants to block every single vector in its organization from a security standpoint, here's an end-to-end solution. We have actively started pursuing infinity opportunities, which is nothing but an enterprise license agreement, which encompasses all the checkpoint solutions and gives the customer the benefit of having a single management console to have a look at all the threat vectors in their organization. Enough and more proof. I'm sure you come across some of these reports from time to time. 22 years consecutively, the checkpoint firewall has been in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and the emerging technologies around endpoint security and cloud security have also started to making a dent, as far as these recognitions are concerned. Okay, coming to the business part, I just want to throw a little bit of light in terms of how the organization has evolved. We typically, love to call this as Checkpoint 2.0. Over the last 3 years, I think, the Checkpoint as an organization probably is 91st. I would say 95% of the organization is less than 2.5 years old in the system. That's a new flavor that Checkpoint has, and we've kind of inculcated a lot of changes in terms of our workings as well. For those who interact closely with us as an organization would have felt some of it, for whatever it is worth, good, bad, ugly. But yes, we've had some definitive changes. We're trying to bring in a lot of partner centricity to the game. We are trying to bring in a lot of ethic in terms of the way we work. We are trying to bring in a lot of professionalism in terms of how we deal with our partners, customers, and distributors, of course, right? So some of these changes, it is an ongoing process. Things don't change overnight. But having said that, I think we are trending in the right direction with support from distributors like iValue. This process is just being expedited on the customer and the partner front as well. In terms of coverage, if you look at this matrix, this is how we are structured in terms of our industry coverage. Conventional coverage, nothing new over here. We have the enterprise segment, verticalized here, BFSI, telecom, and then we have the government vertical, which is of course central, state, and the PSUs taken together. And the next lot is of course commercial, which is totally regionalized, right? So a conventional coverage, which a lot of organizations have in place. But what we have done is we've also clearly defined the roles of each and every ecosystem player in each of these segments. So what is it that Checkpoint would front end? What is it that a distributor like iValue would front end? What is it that the partner would do as its core responsibility? So we've literally gone to that extent of ensuring that everyone's clear as to who's going to play that role, who's going to take the lead, who's going to be a second fiddle, and so on and so forth. And that's how we are progressing. I'm not going to go through the details, but suffice to say that there is a lot of clarity which we bring in through these conversations with the partners and distributors when we really sit across the table and talk about how we want to cover the markets and bring in increasing opportunity to the table. Last but not the least, mutual expectations, of course. Again, this is not rocket science. I'm sure you deal with this with many OEMs, some of these common characteristics, some of these common responsibilities you share with your OEMs as well. New customer acquisitions, of course, remains on top. We also want to go back to our install-based customers and upsell and cross-sell our growth technology products to them, wherein we obviously need your help. We're actually keenly looking towards geo expansion. Till date, I think about 80% of our business has been through the top 6 to 7 metro cities, sub-metro cities, so to say. We want to really bring in, an expansion strategy around that, and that has to be distribution-led. So, of course, there are interactions with the iValue team as well in terms of what we can do together to onboard new partners, to reach out to new customers, and we, of course, have an SME suite of products that actually caters to the requirements as well, right? So that's something which is at the fore. I spoke about the as-a-service model. There are financial models that need to evolve to serve the customers better. A lot of customers are moving from CAPEX to OPEX in terms of their cybersecurity spends as well. And I think we need to be ahead of the curve in terms of having a financial model in place to ensure that we serve their needs, right? So that's something which obviously, we will look forward to you as an organization to bring it to the table for the customers as well. Last but not the least, when we talk about ecosystem expansion, the technological support to the long tail of partners is also super critical. Just to give you an example, last year we transacted with about 450 partners across the country. And Checkpoint as an organization with my channel stream will probably have a direct lookout on about 30 to 40 partners, right? So we have to have the distribution engine in between to cater to the next 350, 400 partners and keep that list increasing as we go along. And when that happens, you have to kind of step up, or shift up as we say, in terms of providing technical support to those partners as well. Implementation services, pre-sale support, POC support, enabling those partners from time to time and so on and so forth, right? So there has to be a holistic plan to do that. Needless to mention, of course, we are already in live conversations in terms of how do we plan this out and how do we do a better job of serving those markets better along with high value, right? So you'll get to hear about these initiatives from time to time as we go ahead. In conclusion, guys, and this is what I wanted to really cover as a theme of the presentation. The market opportunity is huge. The threats are large on one side, but the market opportunity is absolutely huge for all of us. We do boast of a very comprehensive suite of solutions, best of breed solutions, with an experience of about 31, 32 years backing up, and an immense amount of experience, manpower experience between high value and Checkpoint that we can actually capitalize upon. We're of course in it together, right? This partnership has stood the test of time. I'm sure it will succeed, grow further in the coming years as well. Last but not the least, I think there is a lot on the table from Checkpoint. There's a lot on the table from high value. But the point is, we probably are not good at telling that extensive story together to our customers, right? So we need to be better at building that story up, ensuring that we narrate the right story to the customers and make them excited about this joint proposition, this joint partnership, as much as we are with each other. So there needs to be an incremental effort in terms of telling that story better together. In terms of actionables, I have already spoken some of these. This is an ongoing process. I'm not going to read through what's written over there, but as part of the joint business plan exercise with high value, some of the actionables are already being executed. Some of them are being planned. There are mutual investments which are already in place. And suffice to say that we are progressing in the right direction to make FY24 another hugely successful year together. Thank you all of you. That's all from my end.